Let's talk more about a story that has had a lot of attention in the last few days, in particular, as you will know, because pressure is building on Twitter to do more to combat abusive messages. This after police said they are now investigating abusive tweets that have been sent to the MP Stella Creasy. Now, she received those tweets after she publicly backed the campaigner Caroline Criado Perez, who was herself targeted by abusive people on Twitter. She's been talking about that extensively, particularly in the last few days. And the abuse that she has been suffering came in the wake of her starting that campaign to have a woman featured on a British banknote. Well, both women have had death threats and rape threats directed at them on Twitter. Well, let's talk to the chairman of the Culture and Media Select Committee, John Whittingdale, who's just joined us from Westminster. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What do you want to see from Twitter? How quickly can you talk to them?
Well, I think that Twitter have already indicated that they are now looking at making it much easier to report tweets which are clearly abusive, potentially criminal. Previously, there was a system whereby you had to fill in and submit an online form. Now they're talking about having some kind of button. That's very welcome. But my committee was already going to do an inquiry in the autumn into this whole issue of protection of people from harmful content on the internet. That was in the light of the comments by the Prime Minister about protecting children from adult content, about child pornography. And this is another aspect of that problem. And so I'm sure we will want to talk to Twitter as part of that.
I mean, I appreciate Parliament is in recess. You can only start once the session resumes. But there will be people listening to you thinking this has been going on for some time. It's highly offensive at best. Some of it is possibly criminal and hugely threatening. Cannot something more be done more quickly to bring internet sites to some sort of account, to force them to act, to try to identify these people?
Well, obviously the police will pursue anything which is criminal, and I understand in some cases arrests have already been made. We also have had the example a few months ago of Lord McAlpine, who very successfully used the law against people who committed defamation against him. But I hope that Twitter have seen the strength of public opinion which plainly exists in Britain at the moment, and that they will be acting very swiftly.
I mean, do you have any confidence that much can be done in a technical sense? Because, of course, the very nature of this is that people hide behind an internet identity. They're not necessarily being truthful about who they are, where they are. How on earth does one get to the bottom of that?
Well, I think there are two separate issues, and we need to look at both of them. The first is whether or not you can do more to take down abusive or potentially criminal tweets when they are put up, and that's the question of how they're reported, how quickly Twitter or Facebook or whichever site it is reacts to reports of abusive comment. And then there is the second issue, which is where somebody has broken the law or defamed someone, how you identify them in order that action can be taken. And you're right, that's not just an issue for the social media site, it's also for the internet service provider, who has to then identify who lies behind the IP address. It is complicated, it is technical, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be taking action to try and ensure that it can happen.
Of course, but it is your sense at the moment that these sites have a very, very long way to go in trying to meet their social responsibilities.
Well, I think the events of the last few days have shown that actually there does need to be much greater attention paid to this. There needs to be greater urgency. The fact that until recently it appeared that, you know, if somebody had posted extremely abusive and offensive tweets, it was a long time before somebody could actually get those removed. That plainly is not satisfactory, and I hope that that is something which is now being addressed.
All right, we will talk about this again, I'm sure. Thanks for now, John Whittingdale. Thank you.